Ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure to be here and to say a few words about Vit, about his activities within ICSH. And that was not so simple as it in the first hand lies. You think so. Because when he was asked to become president of ICSH, he was not reluctant. I think he would prefer to be an outsider than an insider. And that indeed changed after he was asked for maybe a second and a third time. Then finally he accepted his nomination, and as it was mentioned I think before, he was elected at the assembly on Vancouver, and that was in 1998. At the same time, John Rodda, most of you will know him, was elected as Secretary General, and Charlie Riggs, by the way, another old fellow, was the treasurer. Speaking about old fellows, I belong to the very old ones, I think, in the meantime, but not that old as it is in the program, because there it said that I was a former Secretary General of the IASH, and that's not true, because the IAH was replaced by the IHS already. I think Gordon knows better even than I don't know, at the assembly in Moscow in 1971. So, and that is not what I can meet them, the dates. Anyhow, talking about these days, John Rodda, who was then nominated in Vancouver, he got a post within WMO in January 1988. And I replaced him from that time on. So I have the pleasure and the honor to work with Vit, and from the description of Gordon you can imagine that was really a pleasure to work with such a man. And for me it was always in that way. I have never had a real clash with him, because it's not too difficult to get a clash with Vit, by the way. It really was a pleasure to work with him. Let me see what I would like to say. It's no need to say that he easily was elected at the assembly, because he was seen as a man with knowledge, distinguished man already at that time. So people were really pleased to have him. And as that happens, it worked out in that way. And a lot of achievements, I must say, have been booked at that time by him. He was initiating a lot of things, not always realistic, to be honest, but I was able and I was pleased to work with him on such nice ideas and to make it pragmatic as well. And he was not only active in that field of, you shouldn't so active, but has impact in that field, but he always thought about organization of science and research. For instance, the election of the officers, and a number of you are part of that, or have been part of that, is always at the IOGG General Assemblies. That, I think, is in principle a good thing to do so, but an officer, and that are all the officers, are taken office at the same time, immediately after the session, and that is not an easy thing to do. So the system of an elected president was not there, and he initiated and pushed that it should be in that way, and that, as it is nowadays, I think it started a couple of years after his resignment, and that works much better. I will not say much about his publications. Gordon started already, and his impact on the field of hydrology, and in particular on the time series analysis. And it came to my mind just by incident that also in the a very recent August issue of the Dutch Hydrological Science Bulletin. There is an article on time series analysis, and also there the name of Vit comes to the foreground very clearly. So also nowadays he is well known, and people referring very often to his papers. And I can easily follow what was said by Gordon. He was a man of a special humor. He could say things that you say, hey, that's just what I would like to sort of myself. But he came up with it, and that it was always very nice. And it was full of these stories. And that he was original in his saying and telling stories, and also, I think, in his titles of his publications. If you look to the names of them, then you will see that's not a standard title, but there's always some special aspects in it. What happens during his presidency? I think the association did very well. He was a good chairman, I think, and he very well could manage meetings. He had a lot of initiatives, and not all are all relevant, I think, but anyhow, very good. A number of new commissions started their work. Soil and vegetation, atmosphere and vegetation was one of them. And one of his babies, I must say, was the GWAX working group. I even don't know if that is still there. I don't think so after 15 or 20 years. But at that time, that was a very important working group. Gordon will remember that. And he was really keen on that, and he pushed that forward when he could. That was in connection with the IGBP and ICSU. Let me see what I have on my list to say further from him. If you check how many publications there are and meetings have been held, that are quite many. If you counted them, then you are around a figure of 35. I don't know what is nowadays the Red Books publications, but at that time it was, during his presidency, it were about 35. There was another aspect, what was an interesting discussion, that was at that time, and I think it's still the case with the EG, many other, let us put it in a different way, many other associations and bodies are organizing, of course, water hydrology related aspects. Symposia on that, and that sometimes clashes. The clashes were in particular at that time, I don't know if it has changed, with EGS, the European Geophysical Society, because they started around 70 again, with a lot of got more active than they were before. And they started their their annual meetings. And that sometimes, as we have our biannual one, we're then in the same year, and that caused some conflicts. So it seems logic and good to have a discussion with the board of the EGS. And that we did, but I must say we were not successful. They saw the problem, and they saw we will cooperate and see that the dates do not clash too much, are not too near to each other. But that was the maximum. And remarkable was that Vit afterwards had no bad feelings about that. Opposite, he even got some sort of, as he heard exactly what was going on over there, he got enthusiastic, and he was a frequent, not so frequent maybe, but anyhow, he was visiting their meetings quite often. And I think that was good. He had no bad feelings. I wouldn't say that it is all cases, because Gordon was intending that it could be different. Okay, I have some pictures as well. They are related with the activities we have and ceremonies, etc. we have with other events and on-air events. I wouldn't say that we always start here as we were there. It was more at the end of the meeting that we say, okay, well done. This is during one of the meetings of the General Assembly. This is a traditional way Vit was staying, and I was hard working, of course, scribbling down things, put it on paper. Okay, thanks. This is one of the activities you know of. This is the awarding of the Hydrology Prize, an important event, and it's together with UNESCO. You see Andras Solicinac over there, and you see Roda, at that time the representative of WMO. And here is the prize for Kaczmarek from Poland. I think that was a well-known prize for him, and Vit, of course. So these are the four representing the four associations who are responsible for that. Then this one. This is then the man who I mentioned already. So this is then the just elected new office of ICSH-IAHS. It's Vit at the right. Speaking to me, I forgot the subject, by the way. And this is Charlie Ricks. It reminds me, when I saw this picture, that how much has changed. And that's not only in the scientific field and in the field of how Secretary General is operating. Gordon says a little bit about that, because you know that it's just, I was pleased to have at that time, so that was 1988, a fax machine available, so that I more easily could communicate with the members and not writing only letters, etc. Email was completely not existing. So from that point of view, Secretary General and also a chairman and president has a harder time with respect to communication and administration. On the other hand, coming in so many emails and so easily contacts, that gives you a lot of other work and more work. I realize that. The same is in fact true for the financial part of the association. That was all done by hand, with pencil even. It was Charlie Ricks. He was, let us say, retired from the Geological Survey, I think, in the States. And he was a very accurate man. And when I stay with him there, check the annual books, and we should make a balance for the next year, and we would say, oh, we do that and that. That was the way how it was operating, much different, I'm sure now. Who had a great impact of the better managing of the financial figures and aspects of the association. That was Marshall Moss. He really introduced a modern type of bookkeeping, financial bookkeeping, and from that on it was all done by computers. But Charlie Ricks was a nice guy as well. So this is the board of, I dare to say, 22 years ago, hardly to imagine. This Vit again. This is during one of the meetings at UNESCO. Andras Solicinac is there at the back, because I don't know, I forgot to ask Gordon and presidents of the commissions how this time of the cooperation with UNESCO and with WMO. In the time I'm speaking of, that IHP was very important for the association, that we have many projects that we run together and what was given and financed by UNESCO and make possible to meet very often, etc. So that was here that we were on an IHP meeting, I think. Now I come to the part, the private aspects also presented, and there you will see much more, but maybe, I don't know if there is a few of the house where Vit was living at Victoria Island, near to Victoria. He designed his own house, by the way, in addition to what all you see, the hard work with the trees and so on. What he did the same thing in building, because the house is on solid rock, and he has cut, I don't know how many pieces, but he was enormous hard work for him. In particular also when he this is another view of his house, a fantastic view. I was the privilege to stay with him there for 2 or 3 times. And he makes his own drainage system there, because irrigation was very difficult, of course, and scarcity of water. And he had a very developed and planned an irrigation system, and that was interesting to let him talk about that. I forgot about the details, but I was really impressed about that. This is one of his other hobbies. He lived there in an area where animals and birds are around all over the place, and they are very used to him. So every day he feed them, and they came in the early morning and looking into the kitchen, say, "Where's my breakfast?" And he enjoyed that. It was really fun. And I think also his wife, Mary, loved that very much. The last one, also only a few meters of his home, there are the deers and others. And he was also good friends with these very, very much so. That was Vit. He was followed up by Uri Shamir, a completely different guy. And I had the pleasure also to work for 4 years with him. So I could compare the different ways. And I had to turn the knob as well, because that was a complete different story. Many of you know him, I think, very well. But maybe there's later on, in 10 years' time, there is a reason to have a same sort of meeting in honor of Uri then maybe. Okay, I hope that I add something to what was already said by Gordon and what will be said later on, more on the scientific aspects by others. Thank you.